chairman didn't just fire Zuri Daniels. He attempted to obliterate her existence. In a spectacle designed for maximum humiliation, played out before every camera and employee in the gleaming Apex Global Bank headquarters, he tore the CEO badge from her chest. The metallic rip echoed in the stunned silence as he tossed it into a trash receptacle with a dismissive flick of his wrist, treating her like disposable refuse. "Take your box and get out," he barked. A triumphant grin plastered across his face, as if he'd finally relegated a black woman to what he perceived to be her proper place. Phones were raised, recording the blatant disrespect. Staff members gasped, their faces etched with disbelief and horror. The board members, a collection of mostly older, white men, smirked, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of satisfaction and thinly veiled prejudice. But Zuri's silence wasn't born of fear or shame. It was a carefully calculated strategy, a moment of strategic pause. Because the very instant her meticulously assembled legal team marched through those imposing glass doors, the unearned power he so brazenly flaunted would morph into the very weapon that would dismantle his empire. The opulent trading floor of Apex Global Bank, a monument to unchecked ambition and excessive wealth, was deliberately designed to cultivate an atmosphere where powerful men felt untouchable, invincible. But that carefully constructed illusion shattered the moment Chairman Richard Holston, a man fueled by ego and entitlement, decided to publicly humiliate the one person who had single-handedly rescued the firm from the brink of ruin and propelled it to unprecedented profitability. Zuri Daniels, a woman of unwavering strength and quiet dignity, stood tall and unyielding as Holston shoved a flimsy cardboard box overflowing with her personal belongings into her arms. Cameras and cell phones, wielded by a mixture of horrified colleagues and opportunistic onlookers, were pointed in her direction, meticulously capturing every agonizing detail of the carefully orchestrated spectacle he'd so gleefully designed. "You're done, Daniels," he announced to the hushed crowd, his voice dripping with condescension. "We need a leader who reflects our traditional values. Someone who looks like a real face of finance." The board members chuckled in unison, a chorus of agreement that attempted to mask the blatant racism of his statement, pretending this was simply a necessary business decision, a restructuring for the greater good of the company. Zuri's gaze swept across the faces of the employees she had tirelessly fought to protect, the bright-eyed analysts who respected her sharp intellect, the hard-working tellers who trusted her empathetic leadership. They looked terrified, their faces pale with a mixture of fear and helplessness, powerless to intervene in the face of such blatant abuse of power. Holston, emboldened by their silence, stepped closer, his face contorted with malicious glee. He ripped her CEO badge, the symbol of her hard-earned position, from its magnetic clip with a violent jerk and tossed it into the overflowing trash can with a resounding clang. "That's where that belongs," he sneered, his words laced with venom. "Take your box and walk out like everyone else who doesn't fit our culture." Zuri didn't lower her head in shame. She didn't beg or plead for mercy. She simply placed the heavy box down beside her feet with a quiet thud and looked Holston directly in the eyes, her gaze unwavering and filled with quiet determination. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life, Richard," she said, her voice calm but firm. Holston grinned, a wide, self-satisfied expression that revealed his utter contempt for her. "The only mistake was hiring you in the first place," he retorted, his voice dripping with disdain. Two imposing security guards, their faces impassive and their hands hovering near their weapons, surrounded her, waiting for the signal to drag her out of the building. Phones continued to record, capturing every second of the agonizing scene. Comments popped up on live streams, a mixture of outrage and morbid fascination. Reporters whispered urgently in the lobby, their pens poised, ready to document the fall of a titan. This humiliation was meticulously intended to go viral, to destroy her reputation and ensure she would never work in the industry again. "Let's move her out," Holston ordered, his voice impatient. But Zuri didn't move. She reached into her tailored blazer, her movements deliberate and controlled, pulled out her personal cell phone, and tapped one secure command with a practiced flick of her thumb. "Operation Redline active," she stated simply, her voice devoid of emotion. Holston scoffed, dismissing her actions with a wave of his hand. "Calling your lawyer?" he mocked, his eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. "They'll be useless when the headlines hit." Zuri smiled, a calm, confident curve of her lips that unsettled him more than any outburst could have. "No, Richard," she replied, her voice smooth as silk. "I'm calling everyone who outranks you." Before Holston could formulate a response, the heavy glass doors to the trading floor burst open with a dramatic whoosh. A phalanx of high-ranking attorneys, grim-faced federal regulators, and two imposing men in dark suits from the Department of Treasury marched purposefully inside, their badges displayed prominently for all to see. A collective gasp swept through the room as employees froze, their conversations dying in their throats. The energy in the room shifted instantly, transforming from an atmosphere of triumphant cruelty to one of palpable fear and uncertainty. The lead federal agent, a woman with steely eyes and an unwavering gaze, spoke first, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. "Chairman Richard Holston, step away from Ms. Daniels. Effective immediately, Apex Global Bank is under federal supervision." Holston's smug smirk vanished, replaced by a look of utter disbelief and dawning horror. "Federal supervision?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. "For what?" Zuri answered for him, her voice clear and resonant. "For the crimes you've been covering up for years, Richard. For the discrimination complaints you buried. For the loan approvals you blocked based on nothing but last names and zip codes. For using this bank as a playground for your prejudice." Holston's face turned ashen, his carefully constructed facade of power crumbling before his eyes. The Treasury agent continued, his voice devoid of emotion. "Miss Daniels provided us with the comprehensive documentation. We've been investigating for months, and your public stunt today just accelerated your inevitable downfall." Legal officers spread out across the trading floor, methodically collecting devices, securing servers, and escorting the corrupt board members away from their terminals. The air crackled with tension as years of illicit activity were about to be exposed. Holston looked around wildly, his eyes darting from face to face, searching for any sign of support or loyalty. "I am the chairman," he shouted, his voice rising in desperation. "You can't do this." Miranda Cole, Zuri's chief legal strategist, a formidable woman with a reputation for unwavering integrity, stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "You forfeited that authority the moment you assaulted a lawful CEO and attempted to stage a discriminatory removal, she stated, her voice ringing with righteous indignation. Zuri took a step forward, reclaiming the space he had tried to steal from her, her eyes blazing with righteous anger. Did you honestly think I built this institution from the ground up without implementing safeguards to protect it? She asked, her voice filled with controlled fury. Did you think the numbers magically improved? You took credit for my work, Richard. You bragged about results you didn't earn. But every improvement had my signature behind it, and every crime had yours. Holston tried to push past the security guards, but they blocked him with unwavering force. You'll ruin the bank, he shouted, his voice cracking with panic. No, Richard, Zuri replied, her voice steady and unwavering. You already did. I'm saving it. The Treasury agent raised a formal document, his voice booming across the trading floor. Richard Holston, you are hereby removed from all positions at Apex Global Bank and placed under arrest for federal fraud, discrimination, and obstruction of justice. The handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists, a symbol of his complete and utter downfall. The powerful man who had tried to erase her was now reduced to a headline waiting to happen, a cautionary tale for anyone who dared to abuse their power. He looked up at Zuri, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and disbelief. You set me up, he whispered, his voice hoarse. No, Richard, she said, her voice steady and unwavering. You set yourself up the moment you believed I'd stay silent. Employees began clapping, cautiously at first, then louder and fiercer, their applause echoing through the trading floor, a united chorus of support and relief. Some cried, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Some recorded the scene, capturing the moment justice prevailed. All witnessed the triumph of integrity over corruption. Zuri turned to them, her voice filled with passion and conviction. Let today be the last time anyone in this building is disrespected for who they are. We rise together, or we don't rise at all. Her assistant, Jordan, a young woman who had witnessed Zuri's tireless dedication firsthand, stepped forward, her eyes shining with admiration. Miss Daniels, welcome back, she said, her voice filled with emotion. Zuri nodded, acknowledging the support and the long road ahead. Call an all-hands meeting, Jordan, she instructed. We rebuild with integrity. As Holston was dragged through the lobby, reporters swarmed him, cameras flashing relentlessly, microphones shoved towards his face, capturing his humiliation for the world to see. He tried to hide his face, tried to shield himself from the same public spotlight he once used to humiliate her. Zuri walked past him without a glance, her head held high. Justice didn't need to gloat. Justice simply needed to stand tall. When she reached the executive office, her office, she picked her CEO badge from the trash can, dusted it off and clipped it back where it belonged, a symbol of her resilience and her unwavering commitment to the bank and its employees. Then she turned to the bankers who once doubted her, the ones who had succumbed to the pressure of Holston's influence, and spoke with unwavering authority. The new era starts now, she declared, her voice ringing with determination. Shocked by that ending? Like, share, and comment your reaction. Which moment stunned you the most? Subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories where dignity rises, arrogance collapses, and truth hits harder than humiliation. Your comments help these stories reach millions.